This is Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related, and today we're going to be covering news, and once again, it's all about the games. As per usual, we have some games that have been leaked through the ESRB rating system, a game that has been formally announced for Stadia, but first, we're going to be talking about the latest update on Dirt 5 as Codemasters has given some clarification on what type of cars we can expect to see. As some of you may know, I'm really looking forward to this game, and after I heard some of the MotorStorm dev team is working on this title and it plays a bit more arcadey than what we're used to, I was completely on board. But as you know, those games really rely on the different vehicle classes to actually race against to make them enjoyable, but it seems like Dirt 5's got that covered. In the latest blog post from Codemasters, they actually went into detail on some of the variety of car classes we're going to be able to race in. And that includes Cross Raid, Rock Bouncer, Rally Cross, Formula Off-Road, Classic Rally, 80s Rally, 90s Rally, Rally GT, Sprint, Pre-Runners, Super Lights, and Unlimited. That's quite a variety that I'm sure is going to be a key essential part to making Dirt 5 a fun arcade racing experience, but I think Stuart Boyd, producer of Dirt 5, said it best when he said the following. Variety is a massive part of our vision for Dirt 5, and we've made sure that this is represented in the game's car classes and car roster. One moment you're tackling the most challenging terrain in a huge rock bouncer, the next you're blasting through a multi-surface circuit race with rallycross cars heavy on speed and grip. And then you're carving a path through jungle-like routes with lively buggies and unlimited trucks. Personally, when I first saw the trailer for this game, I got really hyped because of the MotorStorm vibes, and it made immediate sense when I saw that the studio behind it is Codemasters Cheshire. That's the reborn studio behind games like MotorStorm, Drive Club, and Onrush. It seems like Codemasters is posing Dirt 5 to now be their arcade racer and keeping the Dirt Rally name for the simulation style. If you're asking me, that's a fantastic move because there's been a huge lack of arcade racers as of recent. But that covers that story, and now let's talk about NBA 2K21 as it has been officially confirmed coming to Google Stadia. The long-running premier basketball franchise is a really key title to have, and getting confirmation that it's coming to Stadia is a big deal. That being said, there are some things to discuss here. As you can see, they released an infographic comparing both current and next generation versions of the game and stating the differences. They list those features as being unbeatable graphic fidelity, 2-second load speeds, new gameplay features, and expanded game modes. On top of that, the next-gen version of the game is actually going to cost $10 more. So where does that leave Stadia? Well, according to the infographic itself, the Stadia port is built on the current generation version of the game. And that could be quite disappointing to hear considering they listed new gameplay features and game modes that we won't get. This is one of those concerns I had about going into this next generation and seeing where Stadia ports would end up. Back when the PS4 and Xbox One first came out, there was a year or two of cross-generation titles, and what ended up happening is that next-generation titles would offer new features or modes that the previous generation never got, and I'm afraid that may be the case yet again. My fingers are crossed that the only reason Stadia didn't show up under next generation is because we haven't heard official word on Gen 2 yet. But if it's not in the works, I wouldn't be surprised to see this sort of thing become common practice among ports. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the latest ESRB leaks, and the first one we're going to be going over is Celeste. This is easily one of the most highly regarded indie platformers, and I think it's a fantastic addition to Stadia. It's a title that received numerous Game of the Year nominations in a year where it was competing with the likes of Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War, Divinity Original Sin 2, and more. That alone should speak volumes about the quality of this game. And if by any chance you haven't played it as of yet, I highly recommend you do whenever it shows up on Stadia. The main campaign length for this game really depends on your skill with these types of games, but on average expect 6 to 8 hours. That said, there is an absolute ton of post-game content that can easily boost your gameplay time over 20 hours long. The next title that got leaked by the ESRB is Hello Neighbor. This is a game where you play as a kid breaking into your creepy neighbor's house to see what they're up to in there. I can't say I'm too fond of this title. I have played it in the past, but I wasn't too impressed with what I played. To be fair though, it's not all bad. There is some charm to this game, especially when it comes to the level design, but overall I just didn't think it felt polished enough. It's also a title that received a fair amount of criticism. In fact, it's only sitting at a 38 on Metacritic. But the fact that it is coming to Stadia does have me hopeful that its sequel is gonna make its way too. That title being Secret Neighbor, which is much more of a mix between Dead by Daylight and the previous entry. And unlike its predecessor, this one in general has much more favorable reviews. Let's hope that's the case. But now we're going to be taking a look at the next game leak, but surprisingly, this one isn't coming through the ESRB, but rather it's coming through PEGI. For those of you unaware, that's the European ESRB equivalent. As for the game itself, well, it's none other than Borderlands 2 Game of the Year Edition. I'm pretty sure this is a title that requires very little introduction. In fact, it was a very big deal when it came out, and it's still probably the best Borderlands game to date. Much like the previous titles we've talked about, it's certainly more on the older side in terms of release timing, but I can't complain here. Borderlands 2 Game of the Year Edition provides an insane amount of content. And much like Celeste, it's one of those games I would highly recommend playing myself. I will say though, it's great to see that Gearbox is continuing support for Stadia, not just on newer but older titles as well. It would be great to see Borderlands the pre-sequel and the original make its way to Stadia so you can have the complete collection through the cloud. But that does leave me with a question for you. How do you feel about these older games being ported to Stadia? Are you a fan of the fact that they're bringing over some classic titles, and if so, which ones would you want to see show up? As for myself, I can't say that I'm too interested in these older games, mainly because I've played them already, but I'm not against them being ported over whatsoever. I certainly think there are great games out there that deserve to be played wherever you want via Stadia. On top of that, there are a lot of gamers that have missed out on certain titles. Especially when it comes to Google Stadia itself. There are a ton of lapsed gamers who just couldn't justify buying a dedicated gaming box who are hopping back on the train and have missed out on some key titles. Some games I would love to see ported over is the BioShock collection, for example. But ultimately, I do think it's important to note that we do need to see the newer titles also being brought day and date. The majority of consumers are interested in a platform to play the latest and greatest games. This has me hoping that this upcoming Connect will have a good amount of games that are being released day and date alongside the rest. I don't think it'll look good on Stadia if the majority of this Connect is going to be featuring older titles that, while great, aren't really new. But only time will tell what we get. Either way, I'm pretty excited and I hope some of you get to experience these games for the first time. Either way, that covers everything I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, be sure to hit that like button as it really does help the channel out. And if you're wanting more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. Today's end of video message is going to be a quick survey. If you could choose any of the newly announced games over this past month to be brought over to Stadia, which would it be? I know I'm really hoping EA's Star Wars Squadrons makes its way to Stadia and is one of those 5 games that are being brought over. Do let me know which one you're most excited for. And as always, thank you for watching. This has been Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related. The Gen S community is over 4,600 strong and growing by the day, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.